Good evening. We have a full house, so we'll start right on time. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce our speaker, who is an honorary member of the Siam Society and probably well known to most of you. But I'll just say a few words of introduction about Ajahn Piriya Krairiksh. Ajahn Piriya started out aiming to be an artist, and he was painting in the expressionist style. And as a young man, he went off to the island of Corfu in Greece to pursue his dream of being an artist. But eventually, as time passed, he decided that being an artist was not to be his main career. Art, painting, and drawing has remained a hobby for Ajahn Piriya ever since, and his paintings and drawings grace the walls of many people in Bangkok. Ajahn Piriya started out his art career by pursuing a doctorate degree at Harvard. He wrote his PhD thesis in the art history area about the reliefs at the Jula Jetty of Nakhon Pathom, and that was a Dvāravatī jetty. So he's been involved with Dvāravatī now for 48 years at least, almost 50 years. While at Harvard, he also picked up proficiency in French, German, and Sanskrit, languages that have been very helpful to him in pursuing his art history research. He then came back eventually to Thailand after a stint in the National Museum of Art in Australia, and he taught first at Silpakorn University and then at Thammasat University. In his teaching and in his scholarship, he has consistently pursued a questioning approach. His approach has been based upon questioning of the evidence of the actual art objects, with special attention to the iconography. He's always looked for independent thinking and has questioned established orthodoxies when those orthodoxies did not fit the actual objects that he was looking at. So over the years, Ajahn Piriya has led many study tours at the Siam Society. I'm sure many of you have been on these study tours, and he's given countless number of lectures here. He also served as the president of the Siam Society from 1989 to 1992. In retirement, in 2012, he established the Piriya Krairiksh Foundation, which is dedicated to encouraging in the younger generation objective art history scholarship. His latest work on Si Thep, and as I said, he began studying Dvāravatī in the 1970s. His latest work on Dvāravatī came out in a book on the new World Heritage Monument site at Si Thep, a book published in Thai language last year. And the English language version of this will come out by the end of this year. So with that, as a brief introduction, I'd like to invite our speaker, Ajahn Piriya Krairiksh, to come to the podium.
Thank you very much, Kun Jim. And thank you very much, friends. Of course, it's so welcoming for me to come to the Siam Society for a talk, because it's just like meeting old friends again. Well, not so old anymore. Thank you. Oh, young friends again. And of course, to meet new friends. My talk today will begin with an introductory video. In case some of you, of course there will be very few who don't know anything about the subject here. But anyway, in case you have forgotten, maybe remind you of the story of Dvāravatī and Si Thep through the video as an introduction. Thank you very much.
Dvāravatī was the kingdom spoken of as Dvāravatī by the Chinese since the Sui dynasty. The name Dvāravatī in Sanskrit is Dvāravatī. The ancient Chinese encyclopedia Tongtian defines Dvāravatī as a kingdom with city governors, civil servants and military personnel, and the administration of the kingdom divided into provinces, districts and villages. This kingdom was most prosperous during the 7th century when it sent tributes to Emperor Taizong of the Tang dynasty, altogether 5 times in 11 years between 638 and 649. So Dvāravatī was a kingdom existing early in the 7th century, some 800 years before the Ayutthaya period. Therefore, Dvāravatī is the oldest known civilization in the land that became known as Siam. It is the origin of the Siamese nation. According to the journal of the Chinese Buddhist monk Xuanzang, when he traveled to India, Dvāravatī was between Si Thep in Myanmar and Sambo Prai Kuk in Cambodia. This suggests that Dvāravatī was in the central part of Thailand. Most of Dvāravati's population was of Mon descent. In the lower Chao Phraya river basin, which is a presumed location of Dvāravatī, there is widespread evidence of ancient Mon inscriptions from the 5th to the 8th century. Dvāravatī was a center of civilization, respecting both Buddhism and Brahmanism. Evidence of belief of Brahmanism is an inscription discovered in 2019 at Wat Pranam in Nakhon Pathom. This says, the great city of Dvāravatī prospered as a city of Lord Vishnu. Vishnu, together with Shiva, are the 2 most revered deities in Brahmanism. Dvāravatī was culturally diverse, with Chinese and Indian cultures included. Buddhist beliefs embrace both Savagayan and Mahayana. Brahmanism worshipped both images of Vishnu of the Vaisnava cult and Shiva Linga of the Shivaite cult. Dvāravatī existed as an independent kingdom for about 300 years until it came under Khmer control during the reign of Chaivaraman IV, who ruled from 921 to 941. The Khmer then ruled Dvāravatī for more than 200 years. Dvāravatī's population during that time was probably a mix of Mon and Khmer. Dvāravatī was finally abandoned, although we do not know why. Leading theories are that the city was abandoned due to epidemic or that the people were forcibly relocated. The name Dvāravatī first appeared in Thai history about 150 years after Dvāravatī was abandoned. When King Utong established Ayutthaya in 1351, he named the new capital Krungthep Dvāravatī Si Ayutthaya. The term Art of the Dvāravatī period arose more than 500 years later in 1926, when King Phetchabun, Rama VII, established a museum in Bangkok to display artifacts with labels. It fell upon Prince Damrong Ratchanupat, President of the Office of the Royal Society, and Mr. Georges Sédé, the Grand Librarian of the Vajrayana Library, to select and name the period of the art and antiquities to be exhibited. For this purpose, Prince Damrong selected a number of sculptures celebrating Buddhism and classified them in a category named the art of the Dvāravatī period. Sculptures classified as such were all Buddhist objects. This led to the belief that only Buddhist art is Dvāravatī art. Sculptures celebrating Brahmanism found at Si Thep, such as the images of Vishnu, were classified 37 years later by Prince Supatradit, son of Prince Damrong, in a category he named Ancient Brahmanical Images. Mr. H.G. Quaritch Wells was a British archaeologist who came to serve in the reign of King Rama VII. Wells explored the ancient city of Si Thep in 1935 and in 1969 published his findings in his book titled Dvāravatī, the Earliest Kingdom of Siam. In his book, Wells included Brahmanical art as Dvāravatī art. Since then, Brahmanical art is also recognized as art of the Dvāravatī period. Prince Damrong made an initial assumption that Dvāravatī was at Nakhon Pathom. Evidence supporting this assumption appeared 17 years later in Nakhon Pathom as 2 silver coins with the inscription Si Thep Sawara Punya, meaning the merit of King Dvāravatī. Later, other coins of the same type were found at China, Singburi, Supanburi and Ratburi, supporting the belief that Dvāravatī was on the west bank of the Piriya River. In 2017, at the time of the International Academic Conference entitled Defining Dvāravatī, most scholars still held to this belief. Si Thep, a district of Phetchabun province, is about 240 kilometers from Bangkok on the route to Saraburi and Phetchabun. In 1904, Prince Damrong, then Minister of the Interior, found the name Si Thep in the list of cities, but no one knew where this city was. Later, he discovered that when King Rama II died in 1824, messengers were sent to spread the news. One route was to Saraburi, Chaibadan, Si Thep and Phetchabun. He therefore hypothesized that Si Thep was on the Passak River. When Prince Damrong inspected the Phetchabun provincial administration, he asked the area experts about an ancient city near the Passak River. They identified a site about 4 kilometers from the Passak River. He named this site Moon Si Thep. In 1984, the Fine Arts Department established Si Thep Historical Park at this site. Si Thep is a city surrounded by a moat. It has a total area of around 4.6 square kilometers with ready connections to other regions of the country. The city comprises an inner city and an outer city. The inner city is almost round in shape, about 2.1 square kilometers, with a moat and 6 city gates. The outer city, east of the inner city, is rectangular, about 2.5 square kilometers, also with a moat and 6 city gates. Within Si Thep, there are around 100 ponds and swamps, with large and small monuments, featuring both Dvāravatī and Khmer art and architecture. UNESCO is considering an application to list the ancient city of Si Thep as a cultural World Heritage Site. The application is to be discussed at the World Heritage Committee meeting on 10th to 25th of September 2023 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. In 2018, a private company announced plans to develop an oil field in the Si Thep Historical Park, with an oil rig only 100 meters from a significant ancient monument. These plans were withdrawn after mass protests. Dr. Piriya Krairiksh, who has studied Dvāravatī art for more than 50 years, concluded in 2016 that Si Thep was the centre of the Dvāravatī kingdom. Dr. Piriya became interested in Dvāravatī art while studying for a doctorate at Harvard University. His PhD thesis, presented to the university in 1975, proposed a construction date for Chulapathom JD in Nakhon Pathom. His research found that most of the art discovered in Nakhon Pathom dated from the mid-8th to the mid-9th century. The suggestion that Nakhon Pathom was the centre of the Dvāravatī kingdom is therefore not consistent with the evidence that Dvāravatī existed some 100 years earlier when it paid tribute to China during the Tang dynasty in the 7th century. This conflict led Dr. Piriya to doubt that Nakhon Pathom could be the location of Dvāravatī. He believed instead that Dvāravatī should be some other city on the west side of the Chao Phraya River. This corresponded to mainstream belief at that time. Even in 2010, when he published the book The Roots of Thai Art, Dr. Piriya still supported the mainstream belief. But since then, evidence has emerged both in Thailand and abroad which persuade Dr. Piriya to conclude that 1,400 years ago, Si Thep was Dvāravatī, the first kingdom of Siam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kamontip Sanitwong Na Ayutthaya, Honorary Secretary of the Piriya Krairiksh Foundation, for making that video to introduce to the lecture. Now, I shall begin the lecture. Well, one could never be quite sure whether Si Thep was Dvāravatī. Even though I'm quite certain, I would still have to say, was Si Thep Dvāravatī? Well, as you have seen through the video, most of what I'll be saying is going to be a repeat of the video. So, in 1926, Prince Damrong and George Saydes both assigned the kingdom of Dvāravatī on account of the founding of the Theravada Buddhist stone sculptures, such as stupa, crouching deer, wheel of the law, images of Buddha seated with legs pendant and standing in the gesture of argumentation. All found in central, eastern, and northeastern Thailand, stylistically comparable to Indian art of the 6th to 11th century, hence its traditional dating of Dvāravatī period. Now, the Dvāravatī period sites, of which there are around 100, have revealed extensive traces of Dvāravatī. And the sites exhibit common features that became accepted as characteristic of Dvāravatī settlements. Now, by comparing different disciplines, it's of course quite obvious that interdisciplinary studies support the hypothesis that Si Thep was indeed Dvāravatī. Dvāravatī and Si Thep share defining attributes, of which I will be discussing this. First, the governing system and era. Kingdom, population, and language decline. Second, settlement characteristics and city plan. Settlement location, shape and size, location of monument. Third, religious beliefs, Brahmanism, Buddhism, and cultural influence. And fourth, geopolitical influence, geographic location, natural resource, trade and communication route, political influence. All of this will be used in determining Si Thep as Dvāravatī. Now the first, governing system and era. Of course, recent research has sometimes says that Dvāravatī wasn't a kingdom. But history quite clearly states that it was a kingdom. As attested by silver coins bearing the legend, Si Thep Punya, or the merits of the Lord of Dvāravatī, discovered at China, in Buri, Utong, Kubua, and Nakhon Pathom. Also, an inscription with the word Dvāravatī Pati, or Lord of Dvāravatī, was discovered in the region of Nakhon Rasima. And this one definitely says the daughter of the king of Dvāravatī. Dvāravatī and Si Thep were a kingdom in the 7th century. As we have seen earlier, the Chinese encyclopedia Tong Tien defined Dvāravatī as a kingdom. It was prosperous during the 7th century when it sent tribute to Emperor Tang Taizong 5 times. Meanwhile, the inscription in Pallava script, Sanskrit language, found at Ban Wang Pai near Si Thep, states the ruler was a great as Pavavaraman, that's the king who reigned over Chenla between 639 and 657. So Si Thep and Dvāravatī were definitely kingdom. There is, of course, another inscription found at Utong, which my very good friend Michael Vickery quite clearly states that it probably were brought from Kampuchea into Utong. So he discounted as being a local king there. As I believe in Michael Vickery's scholarship, I would take his word for it. Now, population and language. Although Mon inscription has not been found at Si Thep itself, Khmer inscription testify that the population of Dvāravatī were Ramanya or Mon. This group of Ramanya predate those of the Mon state in Burma, because Mon inscriptions are found in central Thailand date from the 6th and 7th century, in the northeast 8th to 10th century, and the north 10th to 13th, while the oldest inscription in Mon states date from the 11th century. And the Mon states were, of course, the one that brought so-called civilization to Pagan. Now the decline. Dvāravatī and Lopburi, that was Lavapura, according to inscription, probably conquered by King Chayaman IV, who reigned from 921 to 941 in Kampuchea, and it remained under Khmer control for over 350 years. That, from the Lopburi inscription of Chayaman IV, dated 923. This inscription was recently found and is not mentioned in the corpus of Khmer inscription. The Bengvian inscription mentioned King Rajendravaraman II, 944-968, victory over the Ramanya, or the Mon people. So that probably was Dvāravatī. Then the Prasad Thuvakadai inscription of 952 in the reign of Rajendravaraman II mentioned the construction of a temple in the Dvāravatī kingdom by Rajendravaraman's ancestor as an offering for the Lord Vishnu, here called Kampesvara. So in fact, the Khmer came into Dvāravatī as early as the mid-10th century. Next is settlement characteristic and city plan. Dvāravatī city is typically situated on land 3.5 to 4 meters above present sea level, in the basins of key river, on secondary stream tributaries of main rivers, in order to benefit from water supply with low risk of flooding. Here, Ajahn Phungsi Banasin and Ajahn Tiwa Supachanya had made this discovered as early as 1980. They discovered that central Thailand was in fact part of the sea during the Dvāravatī period. And the major Dvāravatī period sites such as Kubua, Prapathon or Nakhon Pathom, Utong, Lopburi, Simahosot was located on higher ground, and the Gulf of Thailand intruded into the present-day lowland where we have the rice field. And Utapao was then the port for Si Thep. It was close by the Pasak River, and the port for Si Thep was at present-day Utapao in Saraburi province. Now, settlement characteristic and city plan. Of course, there are such things as pre-Dvāravatī settlements, of which there are many, many. Archaeological evidence show prehistoric existence of Dvāravatī settlements, such as at Utong and Si Thep, which dated back 1,700 years ago, during the Iron Age. Excavation of various sites, several objects indicating trade and cultural exchanges with India were found. Those were mostly the ornament made of agate and stones, orange stones. So at Si Thep, we have burial TP4, and the burial number 5 was a woman with her dog and her agate necklace. That is in the middle of the inner city of Si Thep. So the inner city of Si Thep was founded upon a pre-existing prehistoric site. Characteristic and city plan. The plan of a Dvāravatī settlement is typically round, oval, or cone-shaped, such as the inner city of Si Thep. However, the rectangular plan with rounded corner of the outer city is characteristic of a well-established Dvāravatī cities like Nakhon Pathom and Kubua. So it began with a rounded city and then it became a rectangular with rounded corner. So we have in comparison Si Thep to the left, Kubua in the middle, and Nakhon Pathom. And the principal sites or archaeological site are generally located in the center of the ancient city, such as Khao Klang Nai at Si Thep, Wat Klong at Kubua, and Prapaton at Nakhon Pathom. These are major sites in the middle of the city. Now we come to religious belief. Brahmanism, Buddhism, cultural influence. Dvāravatī was center of civilization respecting both Brahmanism and Buddhism. Brahmanism worshipped images of Vishnu, of Vaishnavism, and Shiva Lingam of Saivism. Buddhist belief embraced Savok Yan, Mahayana, and Proto-Tantric. Now, the most important inscription is the inscription found in 2019 at Wat Prangam in Nakhon Pathom. The inscription in Sanskrit and Pallava scripts, paleographically dated to mid-6th to mid-7th century, states, quote, Dvāravatī is great and glorious like the city of Lord Vishnu, unquote. As both the stone, which is basalt, volcanic stone, and the style of writing resemble that of the Ban Wang Pai inscription, which we've seen earlier. This inscription might have been brought from Si Thep to Nakhon Pathom. And that's not my idea, that's the official Fine Arts Department. Very rarely do we agree. This is a very exceptional occasion. Because of the stone and the writing resemble the Wat Ban Wang Pai inscription at Si Thep. So the Fine Arts Department surmised that the inscription would have been brought from Si Thep to Nakhon Pathom at a later date in the Dvāravatī period, of course. Now, this is the one and only Sankha Lipi inscription ever found in Thailand. And it is found in Si Thep. Now, the Chal script inscription has not been deciphered, but don't worry. Other found elsewhere haven't been deciphered either. However, in India, they appear in Vaishnava contexts, such as at Uttaikiri caves, 5th century, and at Tioka, 6th century. So, may I infer that the one found at Si Thep was probably made around the same period and for the same domination, Vaishnava. But of course, it has to be studied. This is out of my hat. But I would invite you to do further study on it. A mid-6th to mid-7th century Sanskrit inscription written in Pallava script found at Si Thep references Vaishnava again. Quote, the sage who was born of a virgin, unquote. He was Vyasa, whose title was Krishna Taivapayana Veda Vyasa, which means Krishna, Vyasa, who was Krishna. He is accredited as author of the Mahabharata, the Veda, and the Purana. So this is, of course, all Vaishnava texts. Now, in comparing other contenders for Dvāravatī, the only image of Vishnu from Utong dates from the 5th century. That's the one on the left. The two other images is found in Suphanburi. There's a second and third from the left, and one from Lopburi. And these images probably date from the 4th to the 5th century. Whereas the singular example of Vishnu from Nakhon Pathom dates from the 7th century. So by definition, neither of these places could be qualified for Dvāravatī because very few images of Vishnu were discovered there. More promising from the 7th century came Vishnu from Si Mahosut in Prachinburi province, across the Gulf from Nakhon Pathom, and 3 from Si Thep. Note the difference between the Mahosut Si Thep, which are very closely related to those from the peninsula, whereas the Si Thep Vishnus are unique since they stand in the 3 bend flexions or the Tripanga, or, if you like, Praxitelian stance. These are unique of all the Vishnu images found in this country. So they are very special. Now, most importantly, there are 2 images of Krishna and 1 torso found at Si Thep. Krishna is worshipped as the 8th avatar of Vishnu, and as Vasudeva Krishna, he is the supreme god of the Bhagavat cult that precedes Vaishnava. Krishna founded the city of Dvāraga, also known as Dvāravatī, as told in the Purana. Si Thep is the only archaeological site to have yielded image of Krishna dating from the mid-6th to mid-7th century. No other sites in Thailand have come up with an image of Krishna. Now, not only images of Krishna found at Si Thep, but those of Surya. These were not found elsewhere also. The sun god, whose Saura cult, a subsidiary of Vaishnava, was localized there as well. So there were no anywhere else that you have Krishna and Surya, only at Si Thep. Well, one would think that Saivism would found more in the Dvāravatī period sites, but it's not the case. The Sivalingam were only found in major Dvāravatī sites like Utong, Si Mahosut, and Si Thep. And those were not many relatively to the Vishnu figures. one at each side. Buddhism. Now, there are many of Buddhism's sects and cults. We have Savukyan, Mahayana, and Proto-Tantric, all flourished in Dvāravatī. The two Savukyan schools, the Moon Sarvastivāda fraternity, that used the Sanskrit canons, and the Theravada that used the Pali language, were concurrently active at the same time. Not to be outdone, the Mahayana was represented by the Sukhavadi cult that worshipped the Buddha Amitabha, and the Yogacaran school that venerated the Bodhisattva Maitreya. And the Proto-Tantric adhere to the Tantric Sutras. Well, the Moon Sarvastivāda fraternity actually came first. The Moon Sarvastivāda is identifiable by its building that became the hallmark of Dvāravatī architecture. The stupa raised on a square indented plan with staircase in the middle east side. The facing the terrace is decorated with stucco reliefs depicting stories of the former lives of the Buddha, Atlas, and heavenly beings. The base displays seated or standing Buddha in their own niches. So you have here Prapaton JD in the center of Nakhon Pathom on your left, Khao Krang Nok Si Thep in the middle, and Kok Mai De Nakhon Sawan on your right, all of which were Dvāravatī period sites. Now, the Moon Sarvastivāda fraternity also have originally produced a composite winged animal. The Buddha, flanked by gods or bodhisattva, standing on a composite winged animal, is unique and ubiquitous motif in Dvāravatī art. It derives from the Vinaya of the Mula Sarvastivāda, which says that in the middle of the Pavacha, or the wheel of life, this is not the wheel of law, but the wheel of life, stand the Buddha with three animals, namely a bird, a snake, and a pig, representing avarice, anger, and delusion, respectively. And these were combined into a composite animal, which Samdet Gromphaya Naris gave the name of Panasabadi. And that's what we know in Thai. But these derive originally from the Vinaya, the Mula Sarvastivāda. Now the Theravada fraternity, this is again Savukyan, but it uses Pali language. And there's no difficulty here because we have plenty of inscription in Pali language. We recognize it by the discoveries of Dvāravatī sites in Nakhon Pathom, Chainat, Lopburi, and Si Thep of inscription in Pali, the language used in Theravada. So actually, Nakhon Pathom, Chainat, Lopburi, and Si Thep were basically Theravadin Buddhists. And most of the inscriptions in the Pali language were discovered there. Very few or none Sanskrit. Mahayana. Now here we have historical account. Mahayana Buddhism flourished in Dvāravatī as evinced by the ordination of Chan Chi, a famous monk of the Tang dynasty. He was born in Tung Cheng Chu in China and came to Dvāravatī, where he was ordained and given the name Ta Cheng Teng, or Light of Mahayana, according to Yi Xing in his memoir composé de l'époque de Tang sur la religieuse éminente qui Alain cherchait la loi de paix. This was translated 1894. So in the middle, you have the Chinese inscriptions found at Si Thep, on the reverse of these votive tablets. Now, Sukhavati cult of Mahayana Buddhism. Image of the standing Buddha with both hands in the gesture of argumentation are characteristics of Dvāravatī art, for they are not found in India. Since the iconography was created in China to represent Amitabha, the Buddha of the Sun Sukhavati cult, it was unknown in India. As a matter of fact, when I Ching went to India, the Indian monk questioned him on the Sukhavati cult. So they didn't have an idea what's going on. I identify these images as being Amitabha because in the Chinese account, Amitabha teaches to the Mahayana and to the Hinayana. The both Mahayana and Sāvokayana nowadays can believe in Sukhavati cult. And this was the cult that was most popular during the Tang dynasty. The Yogacan school. Bronze images of the meditating Bodhisattva Maitreya have been excavated from Khao Krang Nai at Si Thep. This iconography is representative of the Yoga school of Mahayana Buddhism. According to Xuanzang himself, Maitreya gave a Sangha the Yogacara Bhumi Sastra, the textbook of the Yogacara school, which Xuanzang translated into Chinese. So you have a choice in Mahayana. You can have a belief in Amitabha or you can believe in Maitreya, or both. Now, Buddhism, the proto-tantra, a triad as on your left, consisting of an enthroned Buddha, flanked by the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara and Vajrapani, might have represented by Rojana, that's the center Buddha. These are from Kubur Ratburi. And the ensemble of 5 enthroned Buddha might have represented the 5 Tathagata of Vajrayana Buddhism as described in the Mahavajrayana Sutra. And all of the 5 images on the screens came from Wat Phra Main, Nakhon Pathom originally and were dispersed at present. The center one in Wat Na Phra Main, Ayutthaya, probably represents Vairojana. Both of his hands or his arms, the center figure, were destroyed. So they were made into this sitting with the arms on the legs, which doesn't exist. Probably both would have been this way. Originally, the center one probably had the hands in the Dhammachakra mudra. And of course, the Proto-Tantra, the Manchusi Moonkalpa Sutra might have inspired the depiction of the 4-armed Bodhisattva in the Thammarat cave near Si Thep. On your left is the Bodhisattva Maitreya and Vajrapani or Chatha Mukut Lokesvara Mahakaruna. It's difficult to identify because it's such in a poor state. Now, culture, for instance, here we have the Gandharan prototypes. The Gandharan style stupa, exemplified by the 7th century modification of the Kanishka stupa at Budusapura, that is present-day Peshawar in Pakistan, is the model for the Dvāravatī period stupa, as you can see at Si Thep. The plan very much resembles that of the 7th century modification of the great stupa at Peshawar. The Kushan Emperor Kanishka, 78 to 144, was patron of the Sarvastivada fraternity that preceded the Moon Sarvastivada. Now, typical Gandharan stupa is square indented plan with double terrace and stairway on each side. Here you can see one on the left, that is in Ghazni, Afghanistan. The terrace is decorated with stucco figure of elephants and antlers, while the base is embellished with architectural motifs housing image of Buddha in their own niches. This type of stupa is also characteristic of the Dvāravatī period, such as the left hand. And that is from Jolian in Taxila, again Pakistan. And you have the base decorated with elephants and antlers dwarf. That appears in Si Thep and Julapaton. Now, Khmer comparison with decorative motif of the aerial palace at Sambor Prekut suggests that the stupa at Khao Klang Nok probably date around the mid-7th century, because we do have inscription from Temple number 7 at Sambor Prekut in the reign of Isan Varaman I, 615-628. As you can see, the decorations of the molding of the stupa is made for stucco. But as stucco and laterite are not the best of friends, they soon parted. But you can imagine that originally it would have looked very much similar to that of Sambor Prekut. Now, as the largest stupa, 64 by 64 meter, in all of Dvāravatī sites, the Khao Klang Nok might have inspired Prapaton JD, almost half the size, 37 by 37 meter, at the center of Nakhon Pathom. Similarly, the Vihan at Khao Klang Nai probably was a model for the Vihan at Wat Khlong in Kubur, Ratburi. The Si Thep monuments predate the other two sites by roughly a century. I didn't make this up for this lecture, but that was 50 years ago. The dating, I mean. A type of miniature bronze stupa found at Si Thep seems to have been a model for those found in the northeast. Now, technical skills coupled with outstanding craftsmanship are hallmarks of the so-called Si Thep school. As we have seen earlier, the full images of Vishnu and Krishna, a torso from an image of Vishnu discovered in Aranyapatet, Sakka province, share the suavity of the Si Thep school with a torso of Krishna from Si Thep, that's on the right, and the Vishnu on the left. So you have this very stylistic suavity of the Si Thep school, which don't exist in other Dvāravatī period sites at all. So just on account of workmanship, it will be qualified as the center of the kingdom. Now, geopolitical influence. Location. Dvāravatī and Si Thep was located in the same part of Thailand. Dvāravatī was in the same part of Thailand according to Chinese Suan Sang. And Dvāravatī was the center part of the present-day Thailand as well as Si Thep. So that we have before. Now, Si Thep had access to abundant and natural resources, such as gold mining in nearby Kok Samrong and Ban Mi in Lopburi province, and Ban Bo Thong, Nakhon Sawan province. All of this is in central Thailand. This precious material was made into devotional objects of Chandra that don't exist anywhere else except Si Thep and Maitreya. All of these were, of course, gold. The photograph was taken at different times, so you can see the degrading of the color. But they were all gold. Gold repoussé technique. Trade and communication. Si Thep was central to the inter-regional trade route. It controlled trade routes in the region and with neighboring countries through nearby mountain passes. As key middleman and supplier, it controlled flows of product to inland community and distribute products to coastal community by sea, of course. So as you can see, during the Dvāravatī period, one traveled across the Gulf of Thailand by sea or by river and then into the sea and then across it. So all the important sites were on the coastal, then coastal land. Political influence. Si Thep is on the Pasak River, which is upstream from Ayutthaya. When Ayutthaya was then called Siam, actually the name Siam appeared in Khmer inscription as early as 639. Siam existed as early as 639, or even before. Powerful Si Thep once had significant political influence over downstream Siam. When in 1351, Siam and Lopburi were united, the capital of the United Kingdom took the name of Krung Thep Dvāravatī Si Ayutthaya. Krung Thep Dvāravatī Ayutthaya became the official name of Siam from 1351 to 1839, long after the founding of Bangkok. So on your left, you have the law of evidence, 1351, which Michael Vickery says is quite genuine. He doubts most things, as do I. The treaty between Siam and Dutch East India Company, 644, mentioned Krung Thep Mahanakhon Dvāravatī. And then, as late as 1839, Jas Piriya Bodin Racha inscription in Phnom Penh mentioned the country name Krung Thep Amon Si Ayutthaya, Amara Si Ayutthaya. So, Dvāravatī, Krung Thep Dvāravatī Si Ayutthaya, 1839. So that was the official name from 1351 to 1839. And of course, as you know, King Mongkut made the name of the country Siam back again. From Dvāravatī Si Ayutthaya, it became Siam. Back to the beginning. Conclusion. For almost a century, Si Thep was not considered a possible candidate for Dvāravatī, and it has always been believed that Dvāravatī was a Buddhist kingdom. This belief was disputed when an inscription discovered at Wat Prangam, Nakhon Pathom, testified that the great city of Dvāravatī prospered as a city of Lord Vishnu, thus linking Dvāravatī with Vaisnava. Of all the Dvāravatī period sites, none has yielded sufficient Vaisnava antiquity to qualify it as a city of Vishnu. So Si Thep, with its rich heritage of Vaisnava images, clearly become the prime contender for the title of Dvāravatī. Si Thep candidacy is supported by its geographical location on the Pasak River that flows into the Jas Piriya River at Ayutthaya. When that city was founded in 1351, it took as its name Dvāravatī Si Ayutthaya so as to preserve the memory of Dvāravatī. Well, may I acknowledge special thanks are due to Dr. Kamontip Sanitwong Ayutthaya, Honorary Secretary for Piriya Krairiksh Foundation, for producing the video and giving me valuable suggestions for the lecture. Thank you very much.
Ajahn Piriya will take questions from the audience. Who would like to ask questions?
Is there any evidence or information of how the Mon people moved away from that area, as it appears they did? Maybe you could explain more about that.
Well, they probably moved on account of the Khmer incursion. Then they spread to the northeast. Please, Margaret. Sorry.
Hello, thank
Hi.
you very much, Huay Piriya. I'm interested in the site itself. Columns that are part of the entrances to the staircases have a familiarity that look like almost, I don't know, an Indian column design. Do you have any, the stupa? Yeah, the one on which the stupa is put in the center, the staircases going up to it, the columns, have a different kind of architecture than seems of that period.
Well, the closest we have would be the Sambal Praikuk.
Okay.
And that would, of course, the Sambal Praikuk is the carved brick.
I think your strongest evidence in promoting Si Thep as Dvāravatī, from what I learned today, is the abundance of Vishnu images.
Yes.
Okay, what about all those other sites? How do they relate to Si Thep? Vessel states, or they just, what state?
Well, according to the Encyclopedia Thong Lien, Dvāravatī has two dependencies, and I'm looking for them. And of course, you can help me look at them too. Most grateful.
Because all those other sites have the same sort of architectural features, right?
Sure, sure.
For the city plans.
Sure.
So why, I just feel like the strongest point you're making today is the Vishnavite images. Apart from that, and any of the other ones could be Dvāravatī as well, like Nakhon Pathom or Uthon or...
Well, Nakhon Pathom has only one image of Vishnu, and Uthon has three of different period. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Margaret?
Yes, in answer to the first question, you said that the Mon moved into northeastern Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
And because several years ago I went on a Siam Society trip where we looked at new archaeological sites and also visited the museums, and they were saying that there was evidence of Dvāravatī kingdoms in the northeast. So would these be successor states to Si Thep?
Well, at the moment, it's hard enough identifying Si Thep as Dvāravatī. It would be harder to find dependencies, which I invite you to do so, because we do have the we do have the name, but how do you correlate the names to the geographical places? That seems to be the problem at the moment. Thank you, sir.
Hello. About the Panas body,
Yes.
we learn that it could be the three vehicles of the Hindu gods, the Trimurti, and you said that it's a snake, a pig, and a bird,
Yes.
so it's quite different.
Yes.
What are your feeling about that? About the fact that sometimes we can read and learn about the Hindu gods' vehicles.
Yes, but before the present day, before the Prime Minister Mundi, religions live symbiotically. So no Hinduism or Brahmanism would claim to be on a higher level than Buddhism and vice versa. They do not think that way. That's the first. The second answer is, what is written in the Vinaya is more believable than pure guess, or Prince Narit or Kuntanit Jupo. So I would tend to take the written source. Yes?
Hi, thank you so much for this very exciting lecture. I'm curious more about your research on the Si Thep school, because on the slide of the Si Thep school, you write that you spoke about the technical skills coupled with outstanding craftsmanship are hallmarks of Si Thep school. So I was wondering what other characteristics have you found in your research of the Si Thep school, and how you think that developed. And secondly, you spoke about how the Si Thep is majority Mon, right? And this is well known and information, but you also mentioned that there are other ethnic groups. So I was wondering, in the same way that different religions coexisted under Si Thep, is there evidence to suggest that different ethnic groups also coexisted, or were there ethnic hierarchies in place? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, my memory is so short. What's the first question? Sorry.
I was asking about your research on the Si Thep school and what other defining characteristics you found, and how you found the Si Thep school developed. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the most obvious is the Tribhanga pose. Now, the Tribhanga, or the three bends flexion pose. It's originate, I probably think, from from South India, I would think. The Pallava school. And the second question, oh my God.
Thank you. So, Si Thep is majority Mon.
Okay.
Oh, you
Sure.
remember that?
I think you have to direct it one at a time. The Mon. Well, there are people who suggest that some of them might be Lohu or something. The native. Which is possible, but as long as we don't have any evidence for them in writing, you couldn't really make a point for it. Or else it would be pure guesswork. Sorry. Yes?
Well, the religion of India in general is called, from the Gupta period, is called Hinduism. But you said it's Brahmanism, and I wonder why instead of Hinduism you said Brahmanism. That is one thing. And I remember seeing the slide, 1,400 years Si Thep was Dvāravatī. Was that the golden age of Si Thep Dvāravatī then, 1,400 years ago?
Oh, the second question, yes. Now, I forgot the first question again, sorry. I'm getting old, of course.
Huh? Hinduism?
Oh, yes, sorry.
From Gupta period on, it's called generally Hinduism.
Yes. No, my answer would be Hinduism is a British word from the Hindustan. It's nothing to do with the original Indian culture. which was Brahmanism. So I prefer to use the original name. Sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, Dan.
Yeah. I think you mentioned that no Mon was founded at Si Thep. But could one assume that the rulers of Si Thep or Dvāravatī, they were Mon? And then I suppose that they were taken over by the Khmer. And then the Khmer script would be used then. Am I right? And then what happened when they founded Ayutthaya, Utong, and Lopburi? What were they? The Mons? Were they the Khmer? Were they the Thais? Were they? And what script they were using at the start of Ayutthaya?
What they've been using at the start of Ayutthaya and right down to King Rama V period, King Chulalongkorn period, was the Khom script. The Khom script is not Khmer script. And that is the scripts and language of Lopburi and Ayutthaya. So, in the inscription of Sukhothai, in particular number 2, the Mahathen Si Sattha one, it mentions that the Paw Khun got together to defeat the Khom. Those are people from Lopburi and Ayutthaya, not from Kampuchea. In fact, the Paw Khun were fighting to keep themselves dependencies of Angkor. And as a reward, they were given the sword Prakhan Chai Si and Nang Sikkara Mahathevi as wife. So they were fighting to continue Khmer domination against the intruder from Ayutthaya and Lopburi. Those were the Khom. Sorry, I shouldn't go into another subject. Yes.
First of all, thank you for the excellent lecture. So my question actually is about, as you mentioned at Si Thep, there was like Yogacara Buddhism, and somehow the evidence is their iconography of Maitreya. My background is actually Chinese Buddhism. I think when Buddhist studies scholar, when we refer to the Yogacara school of Buddhism, people are saying it is a school of philosophy. It's like consciousness only. You know, there's nothing exists outside. Like everything is kind of Kant, epistemology, that kind of stuff. And I think Maitreya is, is widely revered by all schools of Buddhism. Theravada also, the Maitreya is only the Bodhisattva, right? So I just cannot really see the link between the worship of Maitreya or the Maitreya iconography with the presence of Yogacara Buddhism. So yeah, that's kind of my question. Is there any other evidence? Thank you.
Yeah, because normally philosophy and adorations are separate. Only the higher beings can appreciate pure philosophy, and the lesser mortal prefer to have something that you can hold on to. That's why we need images of the Buddha. Even though we know very well we don't need them. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? If not, I'd like to thank Ajahn Piriya very much for a very stimulating lecture this evening. So thank you very much. And we have a small token of appreciation.